Welcome back, everybody. We're diving deep today into the psychology of winning.
Ooh, I like that. Psychology of winning.
Yeah, not just for sports, but in life too, right?
Right.
We found this really cool article from the 2023 Annual Review of Psychology.
Oh, cool.
And I think it's going to be pretty relevant to everyone, even if you aren't, a hardcore athlete or anything.
Absolutely.
So, okay, these days, everybody's talking about data analytics in sports.
Oh, yeah. It's huge.
Right. It seems like every single thing is measured, tracked,
Yeah.
analyzed. And you would think that would be the key.
It's secret sauce.
Right, the secret to winning.
Uh-huh.
But this article kind of hints that, there's more to it than that.
For sure. For sure. Data is super valuable. I mean, we all know that. But what's really cool is that sports psychology as a field actually goes way back.
Oh, really?
Yeah, even to the late 1800s,
Wow.
which is,
That's way before computers.
Oh, yeah. Long before computers were crunching all this data.
Yeah.
Researchers were already trying to figure out, what's going on in the minds of these athletes.
That's so interesting. Okay, so then what are some of the main things they found, or the main things that actually make a difference psychologically?
Well, one of the biggest ones is confidence.
Confidence. Oh, I've definitely heard that before.
Yeah, for sure. We hear it all the time.
Right.
But the research actually shows that it's a lot more complicated than just saying believe in yourself and you'll succeed.
Okay, so what do you mean? Is there a thing as too much confidence?
Oh, yeah. There definitely can be.
Oh, wow.
We all know that quote from Nolan Ryan, right?
Yeah.
You have to have a lot of confidence to be successful in this game.
Yeah.
But what's super interesting is that some studies are showing that if you have too much confidence, especially without realistic feedback,
Huh?
you can actually end up underperforming.
So it's kind of you need that confidence to push yourself, but if you get too cocky, you're not really in touch with reality anymore.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a tightrope walk almost.
Yeah.
You got to find that sweet spot.
Okay, so could you give an example of how that might play out? Even outside of sports?
Okay, yeah. Imagine someone who just thinks they have the best solution at work to a problem,
Uh-huh.
but they're totally closed off to any feedback from their team or anything.
Yeah.
That kind of overblown confidence can make them miss out on better ways to do things,
Totally. Yeah, they think they're so right that they don't even listen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then they fail.
Okay, so confidence is important, but it's not that straightforward.
Nope.
So what about pressure? How does that mess with, how you do things?
Pressure is another really fascinating area of research. I mean, I'm sure we've all felt that feeling of choking under pressure.
Well, yeah.
When the stakes are high and suddenly you just can't do what you normally do.
Absolutely. I've totally been there. I remember this one time I had to give a presentation at work, and I was so nervous.
Oh, no.
I totally blanked. I just
Yeah.
I fumbled through the whole thing. It was so embarrassing.
Yeah, it happens. But what's interesting is it's not just a feeling, the research actually shows that stress can actually change things in your body that make it harder to perform.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But okay, so then how do you explain those athletes that seem to do even better under pressure? Michael Jordan hitting the game-winning shot.
Right. Yeah, it's super interesting. It seems like some people are just kind of wired to handle pressure better.
Right.
But the research also suggests that a lot of those top performers, they actually train themselves to deal with stress well.
So it's not just they're born with it.
It's not just in their genes, no.
They learn how to do that. Okay, what are some of the techniques they use?
Well, one that's really cool is called the quiet eye. It's basically about keeping your eyes really steady and focused before you do something.
Okay.
Like a basketball player looking at the hoop before they take a free throw.
So how does that actually help, though? Just staring at something?
It's not just staring. It's more training your brain to block everything else out.
Oh, okay.
And just zero in on what you got to do. And they found that this can actually make you more accurate and consistent.
That makes a lot of sense. I guess it's you're so focused on the goal you don't get distracted.
Exactly.
I could see how that could be helpful for anything, not just sports. Imagine using that quiet eye thing during a job interview.
Oh, yeah.
Or even just a tough conversation with someone.
Totally.
That's so cool.
It's all about using that focus to your advantage.
This is really fascinating. I'm seeing how this all connects to just everyday life.
Yeah.
So are there any other mind tricks athletes use to up their game.
Another common one is self-talk.
Self-talk.
Yeah.
Like talking to yourself.
Yep. We always hear about athletes using like positive affirmations and stuff, right? Like to pump themselves up.
Oh, yeah. Like those motivational posters.
Yeah. But there's actually real science behind it.
Really? So it's not just cheesy slogans.
Nope. Research shows it can actually make a difference, both for like beginners and, pros. It's all about using words to like guide your thoughts and what you do.
Okay.
Whether it's telling yourself how to do something or just giving yourself a pep talk.
So it's like having your own like internal coach.
Yeah, exactly.
Do they usually use like one kind of self-talk or does it depend?
It totally depends. Some people use more like instructional stuff to focus on the technique, like a golfer might say smooth swing, while other people might need more motivational stuff, like right before a big game.
Makes sense. Different things work for different people.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm just wondering though, is it always about being positive? Like, is there ever a time to like acknowledge those negative thoughts?
That's a great question. And it actually leads us to another big topic in this research. Perfectionism.
Ah, perfectionism. Isn't that what drives a lot of athletes, though? Like, to be the best?
It can be, yeah. But the interesting part is this. The research shows that what really matters is the reason why you're trying to be perfect. If you're doing it because you want to reach your full potential, like set high standards for yourself,
Okay.
that's actually linked to better performance.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But what about when it's like you're scared of failing or you're scared of people criticizing you?
Right. Yeah, what happens then?
That's when it can become a problem. Because when perfectionism comes from fear, it can actually make you more anxious and less confident, which then makes you do worse.
So it's not just about wanting to be perfect. It's about, like, why you want it.
Yeah, exactly.
This kind of reminds me of this time when I was learning piano. This kind of reminds me of this time when I was learning piano. I was so focused on playing every note perfectly, terrified of making a mistake. It's just like sucked all the fun out of it.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I was so tense. My fingers felt like, I don't know, wood. It wasn't until I kind of let go of that fear a little.
Right.
And just like allowed myself to try things out and even mess up
Yeah,
that I actually started getting better.
that makes sense.
And like, more importantly, enjoying it.
Yeah. It sounds like you were like so worried about being criticized that it
Cool.
just like blocked you.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't until I shifted to like the joy of learning and challenging myself.
Right.
That's when things really clicked. Which makes me wonder about like the role of coaches in all this.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
They must have a huge impact on an athlete's like mindset, right?
Absolutely. That coach-athlete relationship is so important. And research shows that different coaching styles can have like really big effects, good and bad.
Okay, so then what about the bad? Like, how does that work?
Well, one thing that's really concerning is like abusive coaching.
Oh, wow.
It's actually more common than you might think. Yeah, and the research is really clear. It can have like lasting negative effects on athletes, both on how well they perform and, just how they feel overall.
That's awful. I guess in those high-pressure situations, it's easy to lose it sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes people just cross the line.
Right. But okay, so what about the positive side? What kind of coaching actually helps athletes like really thrive and be their best?
That's a great question. And it's something that has kind of evolved over time,
Yeah.
Like in the past, coaching was often very like authoritarian, focused on discipline and control.
Okay.
But more recently, there's been a shift towards like a more supportive and collaborative approach.
So less about yelling from the sidelines.
Exactly.
And more about like building trust.
Yeah. Coaches are realizing that athletes actually do better when they feel supported, respected, and like they have some power to make decisions.
So it's about creating like a positive environment.
Yeah, an encouraging environment where athletes can like take risks, learn from their mistakes, and grow.
That makes so much sense. It's about feeling safe to like push your limits without worrying about being judged.
Exactly. That feeling of psychological safety is so important.
And that's something we could all do, right? Not just coaches.
Oh, yeah.
Like
yeah.
if you're leading a team at work or even just like raising kids.
Totally.
It's about those positive, supportive relationships.
Yeah.
What's really striking me is that all this stuff, the confidence, the pressure, the perfectionism, the coaching,
Yeah.
it's not just for sports, right?
No, not at all.
It feels like these are things that apply to like any high-pressure situation in life.
Absolutely. Think about like surgeons doing a complicated operation or pilots flying through a storm.
Oh, yeah, good point.
Musicians playing a concert, right?
Yeah.
They all have to deal with huge amounts of pressure.
And they have to stay focused.
Yeah, and perform at their best.
Have you seen, like, examples of these ideas being used in other fields? Like, specifically?
Oh, for sure. Like that quiet eye technique that's been used to train surgeons.
Oh, wow.
To help them be more precise and focused during surgery.
Wow.
And mindfulness, which a lot of athletes use to deal with stress, that's being used in like company wellness programs.
Really?
Yeah, to help people deal with burnout.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It really shows how powerful these tools are.
Yeah.
And how much we can learn from, like, studying athletes.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the mental side of things, but we can't forget about the data. Like, sports analytics is huge these days.
Oh, yeah, it's a whole industry.
Right. It seems like every team is collecting tons of data on, like, everything.
Yeah.
So it kind of feels like there's this debate.
A big debate, yeah.
Is it all about the data, or are humans still more important?
I think it's got to be both, right?
Yeah.
Like sports analytics and psychology both use statistics, and that can give us really useful information about trends and stuff.
But, like we've been talking about, there's always that human element that you can't really measure. And that's what makes sports so exciting to watch.
Right. It's those moments where people beat the odds, do things no one expected,
Yeah.
achieve those like amazing moments of greatness.
And that's where the human element, like the psychology of it all, really comes in, right?
Totally.
The passion, the drive, the resilience.
For sure.
The ability to, like, push past your limits.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's those things that make sports so captivating.
Uh-huh.
That mix of, like, the stuff you can measure
Right.
and the things you can't.
Totally.
And what's cool is this whole conversation about sports psychology,
Yeah.
it kind of applies to everyday life too, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, whether it's like a tough project at work or a big exam or even just like trying to reach a personal goal.
Yeah, first I
Understanding this stuff can really make a difference.
It's like the same mental game that athletes use.
Right.
You can use it anywhere.
Okay, so for people listening who are thinking, okay, this is all interesting,
Yeah.
but like, what's the takeaway for me? What would you say to them?
I'd say think about one area of your life
Uh-huh.
where you want to do better, you know?
Okay.
Could be work, could be your personal life, even just like growing as a person.
Right.
And then think about how you can use some of these ideas.
So like, how do you actually do that?
Well, the first step is just being aware, right? Like noticing those things we talked about, confidence, pressure, perfectionism, and
Right.
how they affect you.
Yeah.
Once you're aware of that, you can start trying out different things and see what works.
So like, if someone struggles with self-doubt,
Yeah.
they could try different ways of talking to themselves
Yeah.
to see if that helps.
Exactly. Or if someone always gets overwhelmed by pressure,
Yeah.
they could try some of those mindfulness techniques the athletes use.
Oh, right, to stay calm.
Yep.
So it's about finding what works for you
Totally.
and remembering it's a process.
Yeah, it's not like you just like flip a switch and you're good.
Right.
It takes time and experimenting.
Before we finish up, I want to go back to something you said earlier.
Oh.
That quote about statistics not defining individuals.
Oh, yeah, from Quetelet.
It really made me think because it kind of shows the limits of data, even now.
It's a good reminder that even though statistics can be super helpful for understanding trends,
Right.
they can't tell you what's going to happen in a single game or how one person is going to react under pressure.
Which brings us back to that unpredictable part of sports.
Yeah.
Those crazy moments where people do the unexpected.
That's what makes it fun to watch.
Yes.
And it's what makes life interesting too, right?
Yeah.
It's those surprises, those moments where we do things we didn't think we could.
It's such a good point. It's like a reminder to be open to what might happen
Yeah.
and to never underestimate what people can do.
I love that.
Okay, so as we wrap up our deep dive into the psychology of winning, I want to leave everyone with one last question to think about.
Okay.
If you could pick one of these sports psychology techniques to use in your own life to get better at something,
Yeah.
which one would you choose and why?
Good question.
Think about it, everyone. And until next time, keep learning, keep pushing yourselves.
And remember,
Yeah,
the most important wins are often the ones we have over ourselves.
that's a great way to put it. See you next time, everyone.